he stated that he refused to return to his original wife. He just wouldn't go back.
I refuse.
I need a Porsche before I can be a good person.
Yeah. Yikes, dude.
Woo, that is a hot potato take. That's unethical.
It's for work.
I'm working here.
I'm divorcing you for work. I love your optimism. It's so pure.
My eagerness to be delighted.
Yep. She loves to be delighted.
I do. Am I a therapist?
You're no.
Talk
And
space.
thank God. Quote, I'm not going to be a single parent of 4 kids. He'll die first.
Oh my.
Viewer discretion is advised. You are listening to Wine and Crime, the podcast where 2 friends chug wine, chat true crime, and unleash their worst Minnesotan accents.
Hell yeah.
Hey, I'm Amanda.
I'm Lucy.
And this week we have a very special fan pick brought to you by Dana Marie Ruckert. Dana Marie.
Oh no, Dana Marie.
Oh no, Dana Marie. Who chose the topic of deadly divorces.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And they left this note that says, quote, just a little background. I am a family law attorney in San Diego, California. I've practiced for almost 13 years and I am literally never bored. I do often get asked whether my job makes it hard for me to believe in relationships, and I always respond that I've just learned 999 ways not to make a relationship work. Thanks, Thomas Edison.
Yep.
So, yeah.
That empirical learning there.
Yep. We're rocking deadly divorces. I am covering one of the fan recommendations today, one of Dana's recommendations. It's fun.
I also have a very shallow dive into a case, and it's much less fun.
Oh, well, I mean,
I got the dark case unless we're both doing dark cases this week.
The topic is deadly divorces.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, what do you think you're gonna get? Not a dark case?
Amicable divorces.
Yeah, I mean, at least no, like, children are killed in my case.
Well, lucky you.
Oh, no. Well, great. We should make sure that there are substances available to help people if they are struggling about listening to this episode.
Please tell us a coping mechanism that we can use.
Yes.
In the form of this week's wine crime pairing.
And as always, cope responsibly, people. This is actually a good pairing for responsible coping because, and this was recommended by our girl Dana Marie, who recommended Live Your Best Life, Sauv Blanc.
That's the name of it?
Live Your Best Life, Lybel.
Lybel.
It's super cute.
Libel.
Oh,
get it?
My God.
Dana Marie,
you genius. You're a genius. This is available at most Total Wine locations. Of course, it was sold out at the Bloomington Total Wine, but you know what? We cope in different ways. But you could get it for about $14. I've seen it on sale at Total Wine for like $12. Great deal.
Ooh.
It has
Gal-approved price point.
Gal-approved price point. It also has a nice low ABV, which makes it a perfect hag girl summer sipper. So let's learn a little bit more about this wine. Live Your Best Life. The power of 3 will set you free. Is compelling and encompassing, and the ancient Celtic symbol of the triple spiral, which is featured on their labels. That's why we're going there. Okay. It signifies the trio of mind, body, and spirit. With rich and refreshing flavors, our wines are mindful of moderation at their finest. I'm trying to do like a little bit of a Moira Rose moment.
It's working. Mm-hmm.
Live Your Best Life wines are produced with lower alcohol, fewer calories, and less sugar. This is actually a diabetic dream wine because there's so little carb in this. Makes me so happy.
Nice.
Yet our wines still retain everything that wine lovers seek. To achieve this, we allow our grapes to hang on the vine to reach full flavor potential. Once the grapes are harvested, we crush and ferment to dryness in our wine rye. Using a proprietary process, we gently pull alcohol from the wine, leaving a reduced alcohol product that is flavorful and tastes fantastic. Our Sauvignon Blanc is light in body, yet lively and refreshing. Aromas of green apple, citrus, and pear lead into bright fruit flavors that are crisp with balanced acidity.
What'd you say? It's a fruit wine?
It's an Herb Erblinger approved fruit wine. Live your best life every day by pairing this wine with spring salads, fish tacos, or grilled vegetable pasta dishes. It's a California Sauv Blanc. It is 9% alcohol. Like, baby, drink the bottle.
Sip it all day.
Basically a beer. You're fine.
You're fine.
It's a cracker, so you don't even have to bring your wine key to the beach. But, like, it is glass, so maybe reconsider bringing it to the beach. But you know what I mean. Anyway, it sounds incredible. It is on my summer must-have wine list, and I am very grateful for this recommendation by Dinah Marie.
Thanks, Dinah Marie.
Dinah Marie. Let's see. What's our background psych and brief devastation for deadly divorces?
It is blessedly brief.
Okay.
I was writing the notes and I was like, nope, not gonna spend any more words on this sentence.
Any more details here?
Nope.
Sure don't.
Okay. Divorce. First, I have a little bit of etymology for us.
Love it.
The word divorce comes from the Latin word divortium, which means separation. So it's also equivalent to divort or divortier.
Okay, so like divert also.
Yep. So the di means apart and vertier means to turn
away
in different ways. So you turn away and you part.
Wow.
And it's even on both sides.
What a divorce is a beautiful word when you break it down.
Divorce is a beautiful concept.
Divorce is always on the table.
It's never too late or too early.
It's never too late or too early.
It's radically feminist, and we'll kind of get to it. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, the OED, there are about 20 occurrences of the noun divorce per 1 million words in modern written English.
Okay.
The earliest known use of the noun divorce is in the Middle English period, and that lasted between like 1150 to 1500. So the OED's earliest evidence of the word divorce as we're using it in this context is from 1357 in the writings of John Gaytrig.
Nailed it.
Who was a Benedictine monk. Talking about divorce. Anyway, that was just a long time ago.
Yep.
I always think that's interesting. The first recorded legal divorce in the American colonies was in the Massachusetts Bay Colony between Anne Clark and her adulterous scallywag husband, Dennis Clark.
Fuck you, Dennis.
Also, anytime Dennis is spelled Denis,
it needs two N's. Yeah, that one needs two N's.
Yeah, Denis. That's not great. So this happened on January 5th, 1643. The Quarter Court of Boston, the Quarter Court of Boston granted the divorce, and in a signed and sealed affidavit presented to John Winthrop Jr., who was the son of the colony's founder, Dinas admitted to abandoning his wife and his 2 children for another woman with whom he had another 2 children.
Ooh.
He stated that he refused to return to his original wife.
Ooh.
He just wouldn't go back.
I refuse.
Something tells me she didn't want him back.
Mm-mm.
But this left the Puritan court no other option but to punish Clark and grant a divorce to Anne.
Mm-hmm.
And so that some sources attribute that to the first legal divorce, but other sources, such as the Smithsonian Magazine, give this great honor to Mr. and Mrs. James Luxford, whose case hit the Massachusetts Bay Colony Court of Assistance on December 3rd, 1639. So about 3 years before that.
Okay.
Before Dinas. In this case, James was
3
found...
3 years BD before Dinas.
Before Dinas. Yes. We can just create the context for all historical events based on...
Before or after Dinas now.
First or second divorce in the American colonies.
The first, maybe second divorce. There's no way to know. But we will be structuring the historical calendar around that date now. Thank you.
And it's not even after divorce. It's after Dinas. Okay, so in this case, James Luxford was found by the Boston court to be unlawfully married to 2 bitches at the same time.
What a douche.
He was a bigamist. And obviously this is a very Puritan-leaning colony at the time. So his penalty was considered to be extremely severe because that was a big old no-no.
Okay.
So he was ordered to forfeit everything he owned to his most recent wife, which I would argue the first wife deserves it more, but...
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, okay.
Maybe because the second wife, like, that marriage didn't really count.
And
she was the one who was duped more so than the first wife.
Sure.
I don't know. I still feel like the first... Whatever. So he was ordered to forfeit all of his shit to his most recent wife. He was fined 160 pounds. He was placed in the stocks and then banished to England.
Oh, wow.
Boy, bye.
Yeah, get out of here, dude.
I like to think that his 2 wives became best friends and, like, I don't know, maybe lovers. And
they opened a little crystal shop.
Yeah, they just raised their kids collectively.
Lived happily ever frickin' after.
They got a good little nest egg with all of his possessions.
Yeah.
And then they just sat around and drank tea and laughed at the memory of seeing him in the stocks and people, like, throwing cow shit at him.
Listen, if our men fuck around and end up being banished in the stocks, I want this to be our life. I want us to open our crystal shop, live off of our alimony.
Yeah.
And just thrive.
Raise goats.
Why not?
Why not?
We're strong, independent, formerly married women. We can do whatever the fuck we want.
We'll tell everyone our husbands died.
Mysteriously.
Yeah.
I love this. I love our third act.
I'm excited to open a crystal shop with you.
Me too.
As faux widows.
Yes.
According to the CDC in 2022.
Anyway, back to this and away from my fantasy.
I'm just building our fantasy out further because we're going to continue talking about divorce and
love it.
Being a widow and stuff. Okay. In 2022, in the U.S., there were 673,989 divorces and also annulments. They include annulments.
All right.
By state, it is popular. By state, Nevada has the highest divorce rate. and Louisiana has the lowest divorce rate.
I mean, damn, I wish we were pulling Louisiana divorce rate numbers these days. Their stats are still pretty dang good.
Yeah. Also, Corey just texted me. I'm listening, you know.
Yeah, I know.
It's a warning to you.
Don't spy on me while I'm at work.
That's unethical.
It's for work.
I'm working here.
I'm divorcing you for work. Okay.
Remember there was a period of time, if you searched Lucy Fitzgerald in Google, the first result was divorce?
Question mark.
Why? Because I joked about divorcing Corey so much that people thought I was serious. Like, nobody even laughed anymore. I said it so often. That's why people, like, listeners were like, oh, shit, she's going through it.
That's so fun. I forgot about that. And it's just so wild to me because anyone who knows you and Corey, like, y'all are the most likely to make it out of anyone I know who's ever gotten married, including myself. Like, if I could have a fraction, if the world could have a fraction of your marriage dynamic, their divorce rate would be 0%. It'd be 0%.
It helps to have really low expectations.
You guys love each other a gross amount. It's really uncomfortable.
Well, we're exceeding each other's expectations, and then we both feel grateful. Yeah. Am I a therapist?
Wow. No, and thank God.
Did I just become a therapist?
Did I just cure relationships?
I cured divorce.
I cured the divorce epidemic. Pandemic.
Expect nothing from your partner. And then
you will
sometimes you'll be pleasantly surprised.
You will always have your needs met. Don't have any needs. Oh my God,
Don't get married.
It's been that easy this whole time?
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, God. All right,
I forgot he is still listening. Okay.
Did he text you again?
No, I just remembered.
Still listening. Holy shit, I'm crying.
I can hear you. I'm 9 feet away.
With our child.
No, she's at Amber's today.
Oh, okay, well.
Okay, so those are the divorce rates, and that includes like I said, annulments, divorce petitions that have been filed, and also legal separations. Splitsvilles. Yep. Okay, so we think Nevada has a high divorce rate. The Maldives were granted the record for highest divorce rate in the world in 2002.
Good for them.
10.97 divorces per 1,000 inhabitants every year.
That's awesome.
I know. I loved it.
I mean, I feel like people move to islands thinking that they're going to experience paradise and then feel kind of isolated, and they're like, oh, wait, I'm here with just my bitch wife? Like, this sucks.
That's literally the premise of a new Bravo show.
Yeah, I mean, that's a thing.
Yeah, it is. I don't remember what it's called, but it is. And I don't think they're in the Maldives.
Right.
I think they're somewhere in the Caribbean. I don't remember.
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of, don't fucking go retire on an island. It's just stay, leave their land alone.
Yeah.
You're gonna hate it. You're gonna hate your husband.
These might be native Maldivians.
They very well may be. Very well may be. I would imagine there's a blend.
Yeah. According to Listverse, the shortest marriage in history. Guess. I want you to take a guess. Shortest marriage. How long was the shortest marriage?
15 minutes.
3 minutes. months.
Oh, I was close.
You were
so
close.
Literally, they said I do. They signed the paperwork, and then they annulled.
I'm going to tell you exactly what happened.
Okay.
So this happened in Kuwait. According to reports on these events, a Kuwaiti couple had been married in front of a judge, and then they leave the courthouse, and as they're leaving the courthouse, the bride tripped and fell. Where any normal brand new husband who just got fucking married might be like, oh, are you okay?
Run
like,
to
help
their
her up.
aid. Yeah, any decent person.
He instead called her stupid. So she walked right back into the court and demanded a divorce from the exact same judge. And he was like, all right.
Good for her.
I know.
Good for her.
Dodged a bullet there.
Never meet a man, y'all.
Mm-mm. Never. No, never.
Oh.
According to a Forbes advisor survey, here are some of the most common reasons for divorce, starting with reason number 1 at 43%, which cited a lack of family support.
Mm.
So, like, you got kids and someone's not helping, or maybe you got, like, the sick parents, and then the family dynamics are always complicated.
Yup.
And if you have a spouse who is not on the same page as you, that leads to a quick unraveling.
Yeah, it can be bad. It can be really bad.
34% of marriages among the survey respondents ended due to an affair. So that was like the second biggest reason. 31% reported incompatibility. Another 31% cited a lack of intimacy, and another 31% cited too much conflict. This is fought too much. And then the least oft-cited reason was at 24%, which was financial stress, which still is.
That surprises me because I figured that reason would be higher. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is just so common. I mean, financial stress happens in almost every single relationship unless you're like quite wealthy.
But even that, I mean, it just comes in like different forms. Do I pay my taxes?
Right. I don't want to.
But yeah, the family support, I think it's a big deal, but I guess till I saw these numbers, I would not have thought that was the number one thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can so clearly picture leaving a partner who is not helpful at all with children, or leaving a partner under the stress of like taking in parents and caring for them. Like those are two things that would put massive stress on a relationship. That completely tracks.
Yeah. And also like some of these things, like financial stress is really difficult to get out of, but it's possible to work together. Intimacy could be another case of like working together to solve a problem. But I don't know. I feel like the lack of family support is such a personality thing. It's like, oh, you're just kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a fire lit under your ass to help when it comes to your kids or your parents or
your family,
then that's might not change because you're just an asshole.
Yeah, and that's obviously working under the assumption that like the familial relationship is for the most part good. We understand that there are people who cut ties with members of their family, like their own parents, because of ongoing traumas and issues. Like that's not what we mean. It's not like you have to take care of your family, but like if you are willing and able to do so and the relationship is good, and then that additional stress breaks things down.
I was describing kind of a specific situation.
Exactly. But it's a common situation.
Beans your tail.
Yeah, Beans is just being a little bit of a menace right now.
Her tail just sprouted up like a coral in front of your face.
She likes to reach up and fuck with my boom, and then my mic will just start like bouncing, and I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ. She's so quiet that you can't see a Kevin.
We've both got our orange cat.
Don't fight me.
Whoa.
Accept my love. God damn it. Okay, well.
Look at us. That was a moment of orange cat chaos.
Holy shit. I didn't realize Ray was upside down.
Yeah, you flipped a little bit.
That's fucking funny. I love that.
Oh my God. Okay, so here are some more interesting.
Covered in hair now, ish. Okay.
Here are some more interesting stats about marriage and divorce from the CDC. A 2002 study suggests that marriages tend to last longer under certain conditions, such as, and almost all of this has to do with the woman's situation.
Oh, great.
And again, this is a 2002 very hetero-binary stats. Okay, so such as a woman's age at the time the marriage began. And I think that meant if she's younger, they're more likely for the marriage to end.
Oh.
If they get married young, specifically if the woman is young.
Okay.
Whether she was raised throughout childhood in an intact 2-parent family, whether religion plays an important role in her life, and whether she had a higher family income or lived in a community with a high median family income, with low male unemployment and with low poverty.
So she's financially in a good spot.
Financially in a good spot, religiously motivated. Her parents are still together, and she wasn't super young when they got married.
So those factors contribute to quote unquote successful marriages.
Statistically longer marriages.
Okay.
The report also shows that marriages that end don't always end in a divorce. So we talked about separations. So many of them end in separation and don't actually go through the divorce process. Because if you're separated, I mean, it depends on the circumstances when you got married and throughout your marriage. But sometimes it's cheaper and better to just go your separate ways and not
stay married on paper.
Yeah.
I've known people who have done that for because they have an amicable split with their partner, but their partner relies on them for health insurance. And so they separate and they live completely separate lives. And unless someone wants to get married again, they just on paper stay married, but they're not together.
Yeah. So separated white women are much more likely to divorce after 3 years of separation at 91%. Compared with separated Hispanic women at 77% and separated Black women at 67%.
Interesting.
Meanwhile, the probability of remarriage among divorced women was 54% within 5 years. And that's split out again among races. Racially, 58% for white women, 44% for Hispanic women, and 32% for Black women.
Interesting.
However, there was also a strong probability that second marriages will end in separation or divorce. And that was at 23% after only 5 years and 39% after 10 years.
Well, we saw it happen to the Golden Bachelor after 5 months.
He was married for 5 months.
And they broke up.
To the winner of the to the lady?
To the lady. His Golden Bachelorette. Their marriage.
Did they get married at the end of that show?
Yep. Yeah, they got married very shortly after the finale aired. And it was on TV.
Have any of those marriages lasted?
Yeah, a handful of them have actually, and people have kids. And I mean, the vast majority don't.
Yeah. That's so wild to me.
Many of them never even get married. They just get engaged at the end of The Bachelor or Bachelorette. And then if they stay together, they can get married and then basically get a bunch of money by publicizing their successful bachelor marriage, whatever.
Well, good for them.
Yeah, whatever. Get
Any
your
way
bag.
to make a buck.
Exactly.
Yeah, get your rocks off.
Get your fucking bag, people.
Also, the stats indicating whether a divorced woman will get remarried at all have been declining since the second half of the 20th century, which I love.
Yeah, we've had an awakening.
More and more women get married, get divorced, and then are like, I'm not fucking doing that again.
Well, and some of that has to do with the laws around, women didn't have access to even like bank
Credit
accounts,
cards.
credit cards, things like that without the approval of either their father or their husband.
Yep.
And so as a utility of survival, people would get married.
That's so gross.
Yeah, it's gnarly.
Okay, so I have some weird divorce laws, both domestic and international.
Mm-hmm.
In New York, any professional degree or license, such as a law degree, can be considered marital property during a divorce. So a judge can consider the value of the degree based on its earnings potential when dividing up the property.
Oh, so if you married a med student.
Yep.
Okay.
Or someone who had a medical degree at all.
Yeah.
Regardless of what they're actually doing for work or how much they're actually making.
They could go on to become the wealthiest surgeon in the area.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, I could see that going both directions of fairness. Like that I could think of some situations where that'd be really
frustrating.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that Ireland did not legalize divorce until 1997?
Good for them.
But Chile waited even longer to legalize divorce. It was one of the last countries to do so. And they did it in 2004.
That's wild.
And there are some prerequisites that the couple must follow in order to get a divorce. So to qualify, the couple must be separated for 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not a mutual divorce, then they have to be separated for 3 years.
These requirements are just so dangerous because of the prevalence of intimate partner violence. Like, not everybody has the fucking luxury of a year of separation before they're killed by their partner while they're trying to get a divorce.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so
however, they may waive the period if they can prove infidelity, abuse, abandonment, homosexuality, etc.
Okay.
So there is provisions for that, but also like putting the burden of proof of being abused
on the leaving party, the party trying to leave, can backfire big time.
Yeah. Yep. So that's Chile for you. Beautiful country, though. Excellent pisco sours. It is illegal to remarry the same person 4 times in the state of Kentucky.
Oh my God. Okay, you know what, y'all? We're calling it for you legally. We're done. We've done this 3 times already. It didn't fucking work. You're using up our resources.
You gotta chill out. There are
your
plenty
punch
of
card
fish.
is full. You're done. You're done. You're done. You cannot get married again. I love that law.
I want to know, like, what set that over the edge.
Who did you have to deal with to make this legally binding? I love that.
What was the straw that broke this
the camel's back?
back?
Or even incited the creation of this camel. There was a camel you didn't even know you had until this fucking person came around. And now suddenly we have to make this camel.
I saw a meme the other day that was like, me as a camel. Yeah, I can handle 1 more straw.
Yeah.
I can probably handle 1 more straw.
Sure. Yeah. Dead.
Oh my God. Okay, speaking of jokes.
Oh no.
In Delaware and Colorado, some laws allow couples who get married as a joke to get an annulment or declare their marriage invalid if they were like, we were just kidding.
We were fucking around. It went a little too far. We recognize that. But can you
But it'd be cool
solid?
If you didn't.
It'd be so cool if we could get that annulment. It'd be so chill, dude.
And the judge is like, yeah, that was pretty funny. I get it.
Get out of my office. I'm done. You're done.
I could see you having to invoke that.
Are you kidding me? If you and I could get married as a joke, I would do it. I would never. You literally couldn't say yes fast enough. I couldn't say I do fast enough. I'm in. That'd be hilarious.
I know.
We just make a YouTube channel about the logistics of joke marriage. What it was like applying for our license. What does wedding planning look
And
like
being
inside of a
completely-
mutual joke marriage?
Completely open about the joke that it is.
Yes.
Tasting our wedding cake.
Top 10 themes for your joke marriage that will be trending in 2025.
The Pinterest boards.
Girl, wait. Should we do
Are we
this?
going to get
Are we
married?
getting? It'd be really fun.
We'd also be bigamists.
Yeah, think of the content.
I love it.
We got to move to Utah.
Wait, bigamy is multiple wives. We'd be
Yeah.
misandrists.
Ooh.
No, wait, that's man-hater.
Oh.
Polyandrists. There we go.
We'd
Not
be,
even, because that's for men. What's the word for I'd be married to a man and a woman?
I don't know. I'm just trying to think of like the Greek word for tits and then add something multiple to that.
Greek word for boobs. All right. Vitsia. I'm trying to make my computer say it.
I'm a vitsiagist.
Vizia.
We'd be
Visiagist.
Visiagists.
We're visionaries.
Oh, yeah, visionary visiagists.
Why Greek?
I don't know. Because I always think about my big fat Greek wedding where the grandpa is like, everything comes from the Greek.
Right.
And he just links everything back to Greek etymology. And it always like makes me laugh. So whenever you say like derive from you always say like the Latin because that's what it is.
Right.
But I always want to, and I've been really good about not doing it, but I always want to interject and be like, it comes from the Greek.
The Greek.
But I don't know. I feel like my big fat Greek wedding was such like a millennial moment in time. And so not a lot of people necessarily get that reference.
Really?
I really do. I don't feel like a ton of, like, I think a lot of people get it, but there's like a generational gap. Like Gen Z does not know what the fuck that means.
Yeah. I gotta watch that movie again.
It's
It's
so
so good.
So good.
Okay, so joke marriages. Here's where marriages aren't a fucking joke, and that's in India,
Yeah.
which has the lowest divorce rate in the world with only 1% ending in divorce.
Damn.
So that means out of 1,000 marriages, only 13 result in divorce.
And yeah, how much of that is because there's prohibitive access to divorce, whether that be legal or like religious or cultural stigma, social stigma,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
They also, a lot of people in India practice arranged marriages too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's more of a cultural, like, you get married to this specific person and that's it.
And you make it work. Yeah.
Yeah, make it work. In Wichita, Kansas, if a man mistreats his mother-in-law, that can be grounds for divorce.
Oh, shit.
Mm-hmm.
I'll remind Bill. Bill is so good to his mother-in-law.
What if your mom mistreated Bill?
Well,
Could you divorce Bill?
I choose my mother. Probably.
Probably. In Tennessee, if your spouse attempts to kill you with malicious intent, it's grounds for divorce.
What other ways could your spouse attempt to kill you? With not malicious intent?
Yeah.
She tried to kill me, but it's chill. She wasn't like being mean about it.
Yeah, she's being fine about it.
Wow.
Malicious intent. I don't know. Maybe like a crime. Maybe if you could, like, crime of passion. That's not necessarily malicious.
That's true. With the intent, it just happens. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Also accidental, but, obviously.
Yeah, duh.
And my last fun fact, in New Mexico, a scorned spouse may sue their ex's lover for damages for causing their marriage to fail.
I like that. I'm always
It seems a little
scorned.
petty.
No, I know. I like it for me. As a woman feeling consistently scorned for no reason, I like having this option.
Me as a perma-scorned woman.
Right. I'm not thinking of how it could affect anyone else.
Why would you?
Exactly.
You're the scorned one.
I'm the scorned one.
You're the scornee.
Mm-hmm.
According to MJ's lover, the Cornell Legal Information Institute.
Oh my God, I love this for MJ, one of our researchers.
A no-fault divorce is the most common modern type of marriage dissolution. No-fault divorces do not require any showing of wrongdoing. So instead, whoever is filing just states that there may be incompatibility, irreconcilable differences, or irreparable breakdown of the marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So these tend to be more private than a fault divorce or like an at-fault divorce because the couple doesn't have to share the details of their marriage in court. You don't have to convince anyone that your husband's a dickhead who doesn't help with the kids.
You're both just agreeing for whatever reasons, we're not going to keep doing this. Let's go.
You don't even both have to agree.
Mm-hmm.
So in a no-fault divorce, one spouse starts the process unilaterally. It just takes one and the other one can't object.
Okay.
Obviously, you can both get lawyers. You can go through mediation, blah, blah, blah. But you can't stop someone
from doing it.
From divorcing you in a no-fault divorce situation.
Mm-hmm.
So this type of divorce became popular in the U.S. during the 70s and became an alternate method to the tactics of perjury and forum shopping, which I think just meant that there was such a competitive environment when it came to getting a divorce that like people were really playing dirty about it.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, it's quite a feminist thing here because if you are, let's say, a woman and your, let's say, husband is abusive in whatever way, you don't have to, A, convince him that you want to get a divorce. You don't have to prove anything. And it's just a lot cleaner and safer. And it's a good thing. A no-fault divorce.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like I said, I have a short case for us. This is dork.
Oh, dear. Okay.
This is the story of the Warley family from central Indiana. So, Jason and Brandy Warley got married in 2009 in Indiana, central Indiana. The couple quickly fell pregnant with their first child, but faced challenges when baby Tyler was born 10 weeks early. So he grew up to be fine, but their marriage faced some strains when they had a premature baby.
Child, yeah.
At that point, the couple made a promise to each other, and that was to prioritize the well-being and happiness of their children above all else. They're like, this is difficult,
we hate each other,
but we can get through it. We're sticking together. We're doing this for the kids.
Always a good idea.
Yeah.
God.
4 years after Tyler was born, the couple welcomed a second child, a daughter named Charlie.
Aww.
Charlie with 2 E's.
That's cute.
It's really cute. Also, these kids are adorable. There are pictures of them, which will be on the blog.
Aww.
However, as time passed, Jason began to suspect that Brandy was cheating on him.
Uh-oh.
According to a riveting Oxygen report, Jason appeared to have written a post on Reddit, and we'll also post the link to this Reddit. What is that? A forum? An R?
Post. It's
a post about this whole case.
Yep.
In this post, he asks for relationship advice, posting, quote, I, male, 30 male, am having a hard time coping with my wife, 29 female, having cheated on me with our neighbor, 51 male.
Ooh.
That's all we've got.
Okay.
The post has since been archived, but many users gave him advice when he first posted it. And in November of 2016, Jason told Brandy that he wanted a divorce. So she knows this.
Yeah.
On November 16th, 2016, so just a matter of days probably since he told her that he wanted a divorce, he actually went in and filed for divorce.
Okay.
But the couple continued to just go about their day as normal. Presumably, Brandy knew that he filed for divorce. I don't think anything was like served at that point, but that was like what was happening.
The process had begun.
The process had begun, but they were still like, well,
Living
we
together.
got to make our kids feel normal.
Yep.
So they continued about their day. They went to Charlie's dance program. She's 3 at a dance program. They ate dinner together. Brandy even ran a casual errand, going to Walmart to get pipe cleaners for Tyler's school project. Or at least that's what she told Jason. But instead of pipe cleaners, Brandy bought a combat knife.
Oh, dear.
That night, Brandy hid the newly purchased knife in Tyler's bedroom, her son's bedroom.
Oh.
Oblivious of the horrors to come, Jason gave his kids their bath and got them ready for bed. He said, I love you. I'll see you in the morning. So here is where our big old trigger warning comes in. A few hours later in the early morning of November 17th. So keep in mind, this was like less than 24 hours after he filed for divorce.
Yeah.
Brandy woke up her son, Tyler, and suggested that they all have a sleepover in Charlie's room. There, she stood over her son and stabbed him multiple times with the combat knife.
Oh, my God.
Charlie, who was sleeping, briefly woke up during the attack, but Brandy told her everything was okay and to go back to sleep.
Ooh.
Once Tyler was dead, Brandy took the same knife and killed her 3-year-old daughter.
Oh, my God.
At some point, she tried taking her own life by stabbing herself in the neck, but apparently not well enough.
Oh, dear.
So she's
Alive.
fine.
Yeah.
After the attacks, Brandy called her mother, who was like, call 911. I'm on my way over. Brandy's mother rushes over to Brandy and Jason's house. Brandy calls 911 at 4:35 a.m.
And is Jason is he asleep? Is he
he's
dead?
asleep. No, he's
Oh, my
asleep.
God.
He's asleep in the basement
Okay.
because they were sleeping
Yeah.
separately. So he was like on a totally separate floor.
Oh, my God.
Okay, so in the 911 call, Brandy told the dispatcher in a monotone voice, quote, I just stabbed myself and killed my 2 children. There's blood everywhere.
Oh.
She also said that she had taken like a bunch of Benadryl. So she was kind of talking like sort of slurred.
Sure.
When the dispatcher asked her why she did it, Brandy replied, quote, my husband wanted a divorce and wanted to take my kids, and I don't want him to have my kids. So when Brandy's mother arrived at the scene, she got on the phone with the 911 dispatcher, who then asked Brandy's mother to go check the children's bedrooms to see if what Brandy had told them was the truth.
True. Oh, my God.
So she did, and she found the children deceased in Charlie's room. Brandy's mother became hysterical and started screaming, which woke up Jason.
It's fucked up that... So they sent her to go look?
Well, the cops were on their way. She just got there first. So the dispatcher was like, yeah, I guess. The dispatcher told her to told the mother to go make sure.
I think that's fucked up. I think that they should have all just stayed where they were and had the dispatcher keep them calm and then have fucking the authorities go scope that shit out.
I don't know why they did it that way.
I don't like that recommendation at fucking all for a multitude of reasons. One,
now this woman has to live with that vision.
2, did we learn nothing from JonBenet Ramsey? If this had been like, I don't know, where there were cops all over that house and then they were like, yeah, you can help with the search. And then, miraculously, she was here in the basement all along. Like, I don't like it. I don't like that.
Also, like, go into that potential crime scene
exactly.
and poke around.
Yep. You could disturb important evidence. The psychological trauma would be horrific. If you're at fault, you could tamper
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that. I don't like that. That was bad advice.
There weren't too many details on like that part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I found that a little bit weird too, but my first thought was maybe because Brandy had taken all that Benadryl.
Mm-hmm.
If the dispatcher was like, maybe she's dreaming because it is the middle of the night and she sounded kind of fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
But also Brandy's like covered in blood. So her mom would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
don't know. So Brandy's mom starts screaming, wakes up Jason, who was sleeping in the basement. When he ran upstairs, he found his mother-in-law crying in the kitchen, and a bloodied Brandy told him, quote, "Now you can't take the kids from me."
Oh, God.
I know. It's so gross.
Oh.
When the police got to the house, they took Jason outside where he overheard what happened to his children on one of the officers' radios. Like one of the radios said, 2 deceased children in the house. That's what he heard. That's how he found out what happened.
Ooh.
So Brandy was taken to the IU Health Methodist Hospital to treat her self-inflicted wounds. She exhibited no signs of remorse.
Ooh, she's...
Throughout all of this, the trial, everything, she just...
she's not
totally devoid of emotion.
Yeah, I don't know what... I'm not going to diagnose anything,
it's
but
weird, though.
This feels like psychosis.
Yeah. She remained hospitalized for a few days before she was taken to the Montgomery County Jail to await her trial. Originally, in November of 2016, when this happened, Brandy entered a not guilty plea and was expected to raise an insanity defense because she stabbed her 2 kids to death.
Mm-hmm.
However, in January of 2018, which I think is when like the actual trial first started, she confessed to the crime in court and pled guilty, while her attorney explained that there was no real explanation for what she had done. She was found guilty of murder and was given separate sentences for the deaths of her children. She was sentenced to 55 years for one count and 65 for the other, so a total of 120 years.
Mm-hmm.
For Jason, no prison sentence for Brandy could ever ease the pain of losing his children, obviously. And recently, an episode of Evil Lives Here. I love that show. This case was on one of those episodes, and it's called She Hid the Knife in a Toy Box.
Oh, God. I don't like that.
And so that episode goes into more of the details and also like all the shit that happened leading up to the crimes, like more on the affair and all that stuff. So,
oh, dear.
So that's my segment and my shallow dive. But look how cute those kids are.
Yeah,
and
they're
look
really cute.
how disturbing this woman is.
Yeah, I'm not loving it.
No,
but
something went really wrong.
She's not well. She needs help. And at least where she is now, she can't hurt anybody, any children.
Little babies.
Yeah.
7 and 3.
Yeah, poor things.
Anyway, well, maybe
Wow,
I am going to go open a bottle of wine now.
Yeah.
It's already 2:30.
All right. So, like I said at the top, this case was recommended by Dana Marie. And it's a doozy. So let's get into it.
Great. Love it. Totally want more doozies.
Seemingly happily married couple, Betty and Dan Brodrick, both had traditional Catholic upbringings.
That's the first red flag.
Right? Her background was upper class. His was working class. He was a punk. She did ballet. What more can I say? Betty had a devout Catholic meets Leave It to Beaver style upbringing.
Okay.
So she had strong ideas about marriage, motherhood, and gender roles, as did Dan.
Is this like old time? Is this like 50s, 60s?
So they met in the 60s.
Okay.
They met in 1965 at a dance at Notre Dame. He was 21. She was 17. He was in medical school, and she was pursuing her degree in English at the College of St. Mary's. They hit it off, and on April 12th, 1969, several years later, the couple married at the Immaculate Conception Church in New York, having their first child together, a daughter, 9 months later in 1970. So quickly got pregnant.
Very Catholic.
Yep. But Catholic Shyamalan twist, not long after the wedding and possibly before Betty even realized she was pregnant, Betty Brodrick wanted a divorce and made her feelings known to her husband that she had made a mistake. She doesn't want to be in this marriage. And then the pregnancy throws a wrench in her plan to divorce him. So they decide to stick it out. We're going to stay together for this baby. Although they both at this point had expressed regret about their nups that they got married.
Okay.
Despite
if you listening haven't connected these dots, don't stay together.
No,
for the kids.
No,
if
it's better for the kids not to do this.
The kids will be okay.
They're gonna be okay. Invest in their healing and do a lot of family therapy and get the fucking divorce. Don't force your kids to be worse collateral in your bullshit.
Yeah.
By
there's definitely
forcing it on them in your house.
There's definitely a point where it's better to just get it over with.
Sure is.
Okay.
So, despite Dan Broderick's high domestic demands on his wife, so she's like the homemaker and the child care worker, and he wants her to also have a job to support the family while he finishes medical school at Cornell.
Oh, so she's not like a homemaker by choice, like this is what I want to be doing. She's that and has to make all the money for their whole family.
I think she wants to be a stay-at-home mom, but the demands that her husband has put on her, according to her, and we do have to, given what comes down the pipeline here, we do have to be skeptical of some of her versions of events as well as Dan's, to be quite fair. But I think it just got to be too much. It's like, okay, well, we had this baby. I'm doing all of this for the kid, and they end up having more kids. And you also need me to work so that you can be in school. And so she's working as a third grade teacher. She's also doing babysitting gigs and supplementing her income selling Tupperware and Avon. So it's not exactly like...
I can't imagine.
Oh, she doesn't get a moment to rest. Like, that's too much. That gives me palpitations. Not exactly a cash cow either, by any means.
No. I require at least 60 minutes of just mindless television a day.
I need like 12 hours of sleep and another 6 hours of mindless television a day. When do I have time to work?
Yeah.
That's not true. So she's not bringing in a lot of cash, but also like it was the 70s. Boomers could go to college, get married, have a kid, and buy a house for like $12. So
yeah,
they made it work
for like the price of a Happy Meal.
Betty recalled how she quickly came to rue her decision of getting married and staying in the marriage and the loss of independence it ushered in. Overnight, she went from possessing assets and a car to nothing. She claimed that her husband was in charge of everything. Quote, I moved in with him and he took charge of the bank books and my paychecks, and I more or less had to do what he said.
Oh.
After completing his MD degree, he then enrolled at Harvard Law School to get his JD with aims of becoming a medical malpractice lawyer. So he's been in school.
Stop going to school. Raise your family.
He's been in school the entire time they've been together. And now and at this point, they've had like 4 children, which we'll get to them.
That's insanity.
While he's at school the whole time, and she's working multiple part-time jobs while being a homemaker and primary caregiver for their children. It's too
For
much.
children.
It's too much.
Mm-mm.
And like, I'll just get this out of the top. I think Dan's an asshole, and we will get to more of that. And I think Betty is deeply unwell, and I do not condone what she does. She goes completely bonkers, and
it doesn't mean she wasn't treated poorly.
Exactly. So like, I'm not saying any of this is an excuse, but I have empathy for her. I really do. So Betty is remaining throughout this time the main financial provider. Fortunately, upon graduation, Dan would quickly be hired at a San Diego law firm. He moved the family to San Diego in 1973. And by the 1980s, the Brodricks had really moved up in terms of like class and wealth. They'd become very much upper middle class, affluent. Well, now I think they'd be considered much higher than upper middle class, but this was upper middle class in the 80s. Now this is like, oh my God, what were you, billionaires? They had country club memberships, prestigious schools for their children, high society outings, a ski condo in Colorado, and a summer mansion in La Jolla, California.
Wow.
So they got fucking rich.
Well, built on her back.
Yeah. According to Betty, she felt uprooted from her career and her friends when they moved to California and was resentful of the sacrifices that she had made. She was a stay-at-home mom who worked to put her husband through medical and law school, and in return, Dan wouldn't let Betty use birth control, resulting in 9 pregnancies.
The fuck?
That led to the birth of 5 children, one of whom passed away only days after being born.
No.
So she got pregnant 9 times in 16 years of marriage.
Oh my God.
That's a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
This goes on to say she transformed into an Uber mom, like really stepping into the role and making it her entire identity.
Because she's not working anymore at this point, right?
Correct. When they're in California. So sacrificing her identity, dreams, and entire life.
Autonomy.
To ensure that their 4 kids enjoyed every opportunity that money could buy, from after-school lessons and sports to kid-friendly vacations without Dan. The consummate overachiever, Dan worked 14 to 15-hour days, so he didn't even want to go on vacation with his family because he's like, I'm making all the money, so I don't want to take work off. While Betty carted the kids around and kept him. Right? I mean, I hate him too. He doesn't deserve what he gets, but I also don't like him at all. I don't like Betty. I don't like either of them, and we'll get to it.
Great.
While Betty carted the kids around and kept up appearances in the social scene, quote, being a supermom was the only thing I ever wanted to be in life. Dan went out and slayed the dragons and provided for us, and I was home and hearth and children and supporter of my husband emotionally through the good times and the bad. Yep.
If that's what you're choosing to do, that's great.
Yeah, but it's real fake.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like it.
She's full of shit. We'll get to it. Dan's brother, Larry, came to his defense, claiming that their marriage was rocked by Betty's, quote, avariciousness and her hate. And these feelings, he claims, persisted throughout their relationship, even from the beginning, and that her sob stories were lies about her, like, making sacrifices for the children, and Dan's never around, and blah, blah, blah. He's like, no, she's a resentful bitch, basically. And she always has been, is kind of what he's saying.
Cool.
But during a marriage counseling session, Dan would respond to Betty's complaints, explaining that he had decided to, quote, chase financial security now so that I can get on with the important things in life. He also spoke of the necessity of attaining, quote, certain necessary possessions before he would consider, quote, the luxury of being an attentive, thoughtful person. I mean,
I need a Porsche before I can be a good
attentive
person.
Yeah, literally. Yikes, dude.
Woo, that is a hot potato take.
So, like, he's an asshole, and he's definitely neglecting
about it.
He's definitely neglecting his wife, and he's definitely neglecting his children, and they will comment on that as well. So, according to the Brodrick children, the heavily varnished 1950s depiction of their family unit, their Leave It to Beaver style family that their mother was out depicting was a fiction.
Okay.
They claimed that their mother suffered from serious anger management issues that manifested quite violently in the home, both to them, the children, and between her and Dan.
Ugh.
Episodes included spanking her children to the point of bruising and throwing things at Dan in front of the kids. One child testified that Dan would, quote, break things that would frustrate him, like the lawnmower. Like, so if the lawnmower was not working right, he would just beat the shit out of it and break it.
Jesus Christ.
Or kick the family's 2 dogs because he, quote, hated dogs.
Good thing you have 2.
Yeah, you prick.
Jesus.
Quote, nobody would want to disobey him or make him mad when he was home from work. So, like, the picture is becoming a lot more clear. We have 2 angry and toxic parents who hate each other and are taking it out on each other and their kids and, like, the lawnmower and the dog, I guess. One of their household maids wrote home to her own family that she didn't like her employer. Specifically Dan Brodrick. She described him as, quote, cold and unfriendly, and that he often intimidated his wife, Betty. A neighbor recalls how Betty would change character every afternoon as time came nearer for Dan's expected arrival home from the workday.
Oh, gross.
Yeah. She said, quote, Betty would stop laughing and panic and run around the house picking up all the children's stuff because she said Dan hated to have it underfoot. When he was around, she was a completely different person. She seemed afraid of him. So by fall of 1982, the marriage is really starting to break down. And Dan hires a 22-year-old woman named Linda Colcana to be his legal assistant.
This is definitely going to end well.
It's not great. So Linda, I'm sure a lovely and like intelligent person, but she was really young. She was a former stewardess in 1982. She didn't have any legal experience. She didn't have any medical experience. And he's hiring for a legal assistant. She also doesn't have basic administrative experience. She hadn't attended college. She trained to be a stewardess, which is what it was called at the time, a flight attendant, in like a trade school right after high school. She couldn't type, which in 2024 does sound absolutely unheard of. But like, this was 1982. Folks didn't have computers, and there were literal classes on typing to learn how to use a keyboard and to like know how to do administrative duties on technology that was in its infancy. So she doesn't make sense as a hire for this position at all. And a little salt in the wound to Betty, Linda allegedly looked a lot like a young version of Betty, and I gotta admit, I see it. Like, I put a photo right here in my notes, and there'll be a photo on the blog, but the one on the left is Betty, young Betty, on their wedding day, and the one on the right is Linda.
Yeah.
Betty's also blonde.
Yeah. They could easily be sisters.
So Betty is feeling like, oh, he's traded me in for a younger model.
Yeah.
Which would fuck anybody up. Infidelity is such a breach of trust and such a betrayal.
Especially after all that bullshit that they've both been putting the whole family through.
Mm-hmm. So October of 1983, within a handful of months, I would say, of Linda getting hired, Betty is suspecting that Dan, sorry, I just had a stroke. Betty is suspecting that Dan was having an affair with Linda, his new legal assistant.
Cool.
When the Brodricks vacationed in New York City that summer, Betty caught Dan hidden away in an alcove of the hotel lobby, calling Linda over the phone.
Oh, God.
Which, like, again, I feel like through the 2024 lens, like the era of cell phones where everybody is like accessible and working all the time, this doesn't sound that weird. But they didn't have cell phones. He's like on a phone in the hotel lobby
while he's on a family vacation across the country.
calling Linda, so not even like at a higher level, partner at his firm.
Yeah, that's fishy.
That would have like a compelling reason to need to talk to him right away. It just is. It doesn't sound that weird now because anybody could just walk off into the corner of a room and make a quick phone call. But it's just different. It just hits different because of those circumstances.
Totally.
When the family toured England, she discovered that Dan had telegraphed flowers to Linda. So like paid via telegraph.
He needs to calm.
He needs to chill.
Jets. Jesus.
According to Betty, Dan would deny this, but the dynamic in their marriage had changed radically. According to her, almost overnight, he began hurling insults at her. He referred to her as old and fat, saying he didn't love her anymore.
Okay.
He also complained about the house and the kids incessantly. Sorry,
don't complain about your own kids when you're not fucking around.
Yeah. According to his secretary at Dan's law firm, by late 1983, the affair with him and Linda was common knowledge in the office. Dan and Linda were not even trying to hide it. They would go on long lunches. They'd leave empty wine bottles and food containers strewn across Dan's office, like staying late, having dinner.
The audacity of some men.
Mm-hmm. Events came to a head in November of 1983 on Dan's 39th birthday. Meaning to surprise him and hoping to mend her marriage. And let's be honest, also probably hoping to catch him cheating.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real. I think Betty knows what's up.
Yeah.
Betty shows up at Dan's office unannounced, and she's got a bottle of champagne. She's got a dozen roses. She's going to wish him happy birthday. The secretary tells her that Dan isn't there. He's out to lunch. And Betty notices that Linda's office was also empty and that Linda had a photo of Dan on her desk.
Oh my God.
Like, he's two doors down, girlfriend.
Yeah, you don't need a photo of him.
You don't need a fucking picture of the guy. And also, like,
they're doing too much.
They're doing too much. And Linda knows that Dan is married.
Yeah.
She knows and is also choosing to be complicit in their affair. So, like, Dan and Linda are both dicks.
Yeah.
Who don't deserve what they get.
They're
don't.
all dicks.
But pretty much all, everyone in this triangle is a douchebag in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Some more than others. Linda is definitely the most innocent, I would say, of these three. The children are the most innocent parties in this whole thing. The only truly innocent parties in this whole thing. But like, Linda was also young, impressionable, I think manipulated by Dan, an older man who's wealthy in a position of power. He's her boss.
And who's given her this wholly undeserved opportunity at his law firm.
Correct, because okay, Beans, you can't pull down my microphone. Thank you. Absolutely. He took advantage of Linda. And I think that there was some grooming and manipulation at play there. And Linda also knew he was married and was an adult when this affair began. And so choices were made on her part as well. It's a complicated situation, but it's shitty. The whole thing's fucking shitty. And at this point, I'm still feeling for Betty. I really am, in a lot of ways. So neither her husband nor his quote-unquote assistant, Linda, returned to the office at all that afternoon.
Oh my God.
So Betty drove, oh my God, Beans is fully climbed on. Hold on, I'm taking a picture of her. This is absurd. How did you do this? How did you do this? What? I'm trying to get a video. What's your plan now? What's your plan with this? Yeah, you have regrets. Oh my God. Okay. So Dan and Linda out to a long lunch. They don't even come back to the office that afternoon.
Super.
Yeah, real obvious.
Was Betty waiting for them the whole time?
No. Betty, after the secretary was like, yeah, he's not here. Oh yeah, neither is Linda. Okay, bye. She drives home, quote, marched to the closet and began ripping out all of his expensive tailor-made clothes with her children watching, terrified and crying. She poured gasoline on his stuff and lit the match.
It is trash.
I literally wrote that in my notes. And like,
wow.
Yeah, this would be a badass moment if it wasn't in front of your crying, scared children.
Yeah.
Deal with your trauma yourself. Don't put this shit on them.
Mm-hmm.
At least get them away. Go drop them off with mom and dad so you can fucking fuck with your cheating husband's shit.
Yeah.
That's fine.
It's a great project. I can get behind the project, but not with an audience like that.
No, not with an audience of your young children.
Yeah.
So Dan continues to deny the affair, telling her that she had an overactive imagination. Yeah.
Okay.
Never meet a Dan. Never meet a man.
God.
So finally, the last day of February 1984, after Valentine's Day, Dan finally always wait till after Valentine's Day. Dan finally confessed his affair, not as an apology to Betty, but only to explain it as the reason that he was finally seeking a separation and toward divorce. So he moved out while Betty and the children remained at the La Jolla rental home, where the whole family had been living while their primary home's foundation was being repaired. So he got another place.
It's funny that they're repairing their foundation.
Yeah, yeah.
You know how
Real
structures
ironic.
need that sometimes?
Uh-huh. Maybe you just got to tear the whole thing down and let it go.
But not in front of your kids.
Yeah. A year later, in 1985, while they're in the midst of an ongoing custody battle in this separation, she would essentially give Dan full custody by unexpectedly dropping the children off at his doorstep one by one. Dan told the San Diego Reader in a later interview that Betty would, quote, just leave them there with their personal things, their clothes, and wouldn't tell me that they were coming and just drop them there.
What do you mean one by one?
So one day she would drop off one kid. A couple days later, she'd drop off another kid, and then another until they were all in his...
And never pick them up.
Never pick them up. And never warn him that she's on her way with the kids.
What if he's home?
While they were negotiating custody during the divorce settlement, Betty would, according to testimony, swing from wanting custody to refusing to accept it at all. The divorce would become drawn out, hostile, and bitterly contested. Betty would claim that Dan, now a prominent lawyer, would make it difficult for her to find a lawyer willing to represent her. Betty also believed that he used his legal influence to win sole custody of the children, sell their house against her wishes, and essentially screw her in the divorce. Which, some of that might be true, but also you're just dropping your kids off one by one at your ex-husband's house, literally to spite him and because you don't want to raise them, which none of that's in their fucking best interest. You're just further using your kids as pawns. She is not an innocent party here. She's doing fucked up shit.
Definitely not. Yeah. I feel so bad for these kids.
Me too. I can't even imagine. Then her behavior just starts to escalate because this divorce is dragging on and on. It's super bitter. It's super messy. There's various reports over the years that this was taking that Betty was threatening people connected to Dan, threatening Linda, threatening Dan himself. A friend testified that Betty once told her that she had rented a car and used it to try to run Dan off the road while their sons were riding with him as passengers. She's trying to run her ex-husband and her two kids off the road in their car.
Jesus Christ.
Quote, she said she was glad she had frightened him. She's gloating about it. In 1986.
And she rented a car to do it.
Yep.
This is so fucked up.
That's pretty fucking premeditated, I'd say.
Yeah.
It shows.
Talk about malicious intent, attempt to murder with malice. That would be that.
Mm-hmm. In 1986, a former housekeeper testified that Betty showed up at Dan's house and told her that, quote, she had a gun in the glove compartment of her car and that she would kill me, the housekeeper.
Oh!
March 3rd, 1987, in a mediation session, according to the mediator, Betty said, quote, I'm not going to be a single parent of 4 kids. He'll die first.
Oh, my.
And, quote, the less I see them or hear from them, meaning the children, the better.
Hold on. He'll die first. If he dies first, you're going to be a single parent
mom,
to 4
yep.
kids.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's no ration.
No, it's not making any fucking sense.
Oh, God.
March 12th, 1987, quotes from a different mediation session include, quote, no way, I'm not going to be the single mother of 4 kids. He'll die first. I'm not letting go that easy. The little fucker was mine. He'll stay mine, referring to Dan.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's
Yikes.
getting obsessive and creepy.
Yeah.
She's cracking. And I understand that this is really stressful. But again, you got to be responsible for your own mental health care because this shit, things can escalate and get dangerous. So spring 1989, Dan and Linda, they've been together all along. The divorce is finally finalized and they're getting ready to get married.
Okay.
Which seemingly escalates Betty's threatening behavior. According to a different housekeeper of Dan's, Betty threatened to, quote, put 4 bullets in Dan's head, 1 for each of the kids.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And said, quote, I'll either make his life a living hell or I'll kill him. During another instance of threatening his life, the housekeeper responded that, if literally what you just said, if she did, he'd be dead. And you're either the single mom of 4 kids or you're dead or in jail.
Yeah.
And your kids are orphans.
What exactly are you gunning for here?
What are you trying to do? And so the housekeeper, the only fucking voice of reason here. Betty allegedly responded that, quote, it would not be a problem because a jury, when it found out what Dan did to me, would let me off. Well, we'll get to it.
I bet
She's almost right. She's almost right.
Oh.
Betty performed acts of vandalism and harassment over the course of this time, many of which were documented in multiple restraining orders that had been issued against her by Dan and Linda, which she continued to ignore. She would go to their property. She would harass them. She'd break their shit. Some of these things included, there was more, but I didn't include all of it. The Boston cream pie incident. Wherein one afternoon, having stopped at Dan's house to visit with her children, she spotted a homemade Boston cream pie, which was always Dan's favorite, sitting on the kitchen counter. Learning from the housekeeper that Linda had dropped it off for Dan, this is before Linda had officially moved in, Betty proceeded to carry it up the stairs and spread its chocolate contents across Dan's bed, which was the bed she formerly slept on with her now ex-husband.
Okay.
And his closet full of clothes.
New clothes.
Quote, yeah, exactly. She burned the old ones. Quote, I remember a Boston cream pie that my girlfriend made for us. She came and just took it and smeared it all over the bedroom and my clothes and my drawers. I mean, crazy stuff. Absolutely crazy stuff.
What a waste of a pie.
Yeah. The car incident, when Betty received her share from the forced sale of their house that they had gotten like the foundation repaired on or whatever, she felt that she did not receive a fair share and was also angry in general at the court-ordered sale of their house. She drove to Dan's house after getting this check and crashed her suburban van through the front door of his house, despite knowing that her children were inside. And this incident earned her a mandatory 72-hour mental health hold, during which she refused to cooperate with the doctors.
Oh my God.
And then was sent home. She'd
The
also...
kids were in the house, not the van, right?
The kids were in Dan's house.
Okay.
She drove her van through the front door of Dan's house.
Jesus
knowing
Christ.
that the kids are inside and not knowing if they're away from the door. They have no idea.
Oh my God.
Yeah. She'd broken various windows on their home. She threw a bottle of wine through one of the windows. A toaster. She got it and smashed a stereo. She broke a bedroom mirror. I guess this was in over Christmas of 1985.
Bad luck.
Yeah. Dan and Linda had taken the children on vacation over that Christmas break, and Betty broke into Dan's house, ripping open every gift-wrapped box marked to Linda that was under the tree.
Oh, that's rude.
Yeah. Tossing the gifts willy-nilly through the living room, and then took a blunt object, probably like a candlestick or something, a bat, and smashed the bedroom mirror, then left.
What?
She smashed a hole in the wall, one of their walls with a hammer. She smashed their answering machine with a hammer. She broke the sliding glass doors. She broke a television.
Why was she always in their house? Or is this one time that she's in the house?
I think this is one of the times, but that like broken windows and stuff were happening from outside of the house.
Okay.
She spray painted the fireplace, curtains, and wallpaper throughout the house with black spray paint. And then she was like leaving some fucked up messages. So starting as soon as Dan kind of set up his new home that he intended for Linda to move into, all the way in, so around 1986, all the way through the final divorce judgment, which was in 1989, Betty left hundreds of profane and threatening phone calls and messages on Dan's answering machine, some of which her children heard.
Oh my God.
These tirades were left at all times of the day and night, many of which were aimed at Linda, as she knew that she stayed over frequently in the early part of the separation. She became so frenzied and just angry and mentally unwell that someone who like once claimed that she lived to be a mother and beamed around her children would then include them in her rants.
Oh my God.
So one of the messages she left was, quote, "This is a message to fuckhead and the bitch. You have one hell of a nerve dumping the kids here on the sidewalk and zooming away without making any attempt to communicate with me about my plans for the weekend. You make me sick, both of you. I have a good mind to dump the kids back on you and drive away. Call me. We have a lot to talk about, asshole. And come pick up your 4 children that you're working so hard to have custody of. Congratulations, you can have them."
The way that she's speaking about her children, and they definitely know how she's speaking about them, dumping them here and there, is like...
It's sick.
And how old are the kids by now?
At this point, they're spread out between like, I think 10 and maybe 16.
Okay.
Or maybe a little younger, like 8 and early teens.
They're all fully aware of this.
They're old enough to understand
insanity.
What their mom is doing.
God.
Betty also allegedly received an anonymous letter in the mail containing a photo of Dan and Linda with the words, "Eat your heart out, bitch." And she suspected Linda had sent it, as well as other taunting advertisements. This is mean, and I don't condone body shaming. And if Linda did this, I kind of forgive her. But she said she was sent taunting advertisements for wrinkle cream and weight loss products.
Oh my God.
Y'all, this shit was so fucking messy. But
do you think Linda was sending that, or do you think that
I honestly really
Betty
don't.
was like...
I think Betty set that shit up to herself, because like, if Linda was retaliating or like going after her, there'd be more information out there about that. And this was like the one thing I actually do think it's bullshit. I don't think Linda did this. If she did, I can let it go.
Or that Betty was just like unhinged enough to be like, oh, she put that billboard on my commute route, or
maybe, yeah. This junk mail I'm getting is targeted because of Linda. That could totally just be her delusion.
Yeah. Or it's targeted because you're a 40-something-year-old woman, and just like statistically, that's the demographic for those things. That's
the demographic where society says you're useless and gross. Buy all these things so that you can be valid again.
You're their target audience.
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, their marriage finally ended in January of 1989 after an 8-day trial, after years of leading up to a trial. Betty would be jailed for contempt twice.
It's wild that there was a trial. It wasn't just like a court hearing about a divorce. It was like a full...
I guess it got bad enough, and with the restraining orders and all this shit that was going on during, that it just escalated to a trial.
Wow.
When the children testified, they claimed their father was a calculating man whom they hardly knew, merely a figurehead, rarely at home, and that their mother was a woman so preoccupied with her anger that she had forgotten her love for them.
Oh my God.
Which is fucking heartbreaking. An example of both descriptions can be found in a taped conversation between 12-year-old, at the time, Danny, with his mother. 12-year-old Danny begs his mother to quit screaming at dad so that she'll let him visit again. Betty's reply sounds like she's talking to an adult next door neighbor rather than to her son. She said, quote, "I was the best mommy in the whole world and the best wife in the whole world. It's not my fault your father is such a fuckhead. I cared about my family enough to put up with him fucking Linda for 2 years."
Oh my God.
To her 12-year-old son.
No.
Yeah. So Dan would win full custody of the children.
Okay.
Months after the divorce was finalized, Dan and Linda announced their engagement. And, but again, the proceedings leading up to the 8-day trial were 4 years long. So Dan and Betty had been separated for a long time. And obviously Dan was already with Linda before they broke up. So it actually makes sense that now that it's finalized, they're like, yes, we're getting married.
Finally
We've been waiting to do this.
Yeah.
So around the time of this announcement, Betty would buy a revolver and start practicing shooting at the range. One friend would testify that Betty...
Gun.
Yep.
God.
One friend would testify that Betty bragged about her ability as a sharpshooter and told her that she was honing her marksmanship at the shooting range.
Cool. Great.
April 22nd of 1989, Dan and Linda are married in a backyard ceremony. Linda was so concerned about their safety, she even urged Dan to wear a bulletproof vest under his suit during the ceremony.
Oh.
He refused to do so, but did hire undercover security guards. One security guard would testify that Dan had told him that, quote, his ex-wife had threatened to shoot him and his fiancée at the wedding ceremony in front of all of their guests. Despite concerns, the wedding was able to proceed without incident. November 5th, 1989, 8 months after purchasing a revolver and 7 months after Dan and Linda's marriage, they were murdered.
Oh.
At 5:30 in the morning, Betty drove over to Dan's house in San Diego and, using the house key that she had stolen from her oldest daughter, entered the house. She went to the room where the couple slept and fatally shot them both while they lay in their bed.
Jesus Christ.
According to Betty, she'd had trouble sleeping that night and went to the kitchen to look over some legal papers that she had received. These were the documents holding her in contempt of court because she had left vulgar messages on Dan and Linda's answering machine even after being court-ordered not to communicate with them. This renewed anger in her. She got in the car, though she claimed she didn't even know where she was going. She just wanted to take a drive to cool off.
Yeah, she beelined it.
She
quite
ended
a
up
ways.
at Dan and Linda's house.
Come on.
She claimed that when she got there, she went inside to confront them, not intending to kill them. When asked why, then, she would bring a gun if she wasn't intending to kill them, she claimed that she intended to complete suicide in front of them. To teach them a lesson, I guess. She said this changed when Linda awoke and screamed, "Call the police," claiming that she was startled into immediately firing.
Oh my
Quote,
God.
"It was such a panicked thing. It was never a thing where I even aimed. I pulled the trigger real fast, no hesitation at all." She claimed that she didn't even know if she had hit anyone. Linda was hit twice, once in the head, once in the chest, killing her instantly. Pretty lucky if you're not looking.
Yeah.
Dan was hit once in the chest, and as he was rolling to reach for the phone to call 911, and it sent the bullet through his right lung, and he died because his lungs filled up with blood.
Oh, Jesus.
And his last words, according to Betty, were, "Okay, you got me."
God, that is so sick.
It's creepy. One bullet would hit the wall and one would hit the nightstand. At some point, the phone was ripped out of the wall so that help could not be called. When asked why she didn't then complete suicide, as was her stated intention, her response was, quote, "I didn't have any bullets." She'd run out of bullets.
But
is
did
what she
she
claimed.
actually? I don't think she ever intended to kill herself at all.
No!
Were her children in that house when she did that?
I believe so, yes. She then saw Dan, quote, "He was on the floor and the phone was right next to him. I thought, oh my God, he's going to be on that phone before I'm down the stairs," because he was still struggling to breathe.
Yeah, because that's not a quick death.
No, it's slow.
Drowning in your own blood.
Right. So she pulled the phone out of the wall before leaving so that he couldn't call for an ambulance. And he died in his house. After the shooting, she went to her daughter's house because her oldest daughter is old enough to now be living on her own. Then she made and threw up, allegedly. Then she made a series of phone calls, one of them to her longtime friend, a woman named Patty Monahan, where she apparently said, quote, "I shot the motherfucker. I shot him 5 times. He was gurgling in his own blood."
Ew.
It's true. You do shit in your pants, like when you die.
Oh my God.
Later that morning, she turned herself into the police. So now, trial. While Betty admitted to the shootings, she described them as, quote, "a desperate act of self-defense against a man who wanted to control me totally."
Self-defense.
He wanted nothing to do with you, and he was a dick, but he wanted to, like, be done with you.
You also shot him while he was sleeping in his bed.
Uh-huh.
God.
Betty's defense was that she had been abused, claiming that she was driven over the edge by years of psychological, physical, and mental abuse at the hands of her ex-husband, which very well may be true. And I do still have empathy for her, but I can't wrap my head around, you know, putting your kids in these horrifying situations. And this is just, it's too far.
Yeah, I can see why you would kind of lose it a little bit, but to never come back and to only keep getting worse and worse despite the consequences, despite the damage to your children.
Mm-hmm. It's beyond.
Something broke.
Mm-hmm. In her first trial, she would testify that that night she had only wanted to, or I guess really early morning, she had only wanted to talk to her ex-husband and then, quote, "splash my brains all over his house."
Cool.
But fired at the couple instead because she feared they'd call the police. Quote, "They moved, I moved, it was all over," she testified.
She's making it sound like a shootout. It's the way she's describing it is like braggadocious about the way. I didn't even hesitate.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
It's wild. After 4 days of deliberation, the jury returned split.
What?
Hung.
Oh.
2 members refused to believe that she was guilty of premeditated murder. They didn't believe that she had planned ahead and gone there with the intention of killing them. They knew she was guilty of at least second-degree murder, but couldn't commit to that. But sometimes a jury can come back with a lower degree. But there were holdouts, so they couldn't even unanimously agree on that. One of the holdouts, Walter Polk, told reporters afterward that as he listened to the court's description of Dan Brodrick's infidelity, snobbishness, and psychological brutality, his only thought throughout much of the proceedings was, quote, "what took her so long?" So he's likely one of the holdouts that was like, of course this was premeditated. She'd probably been thinking about killing him for years because he's such a prick.
Yeah.
So the jury was split not on whether or not she'd killed them. They knew she killed them. They just couldn't agree on the charges to bring against her. So they couldn't come to a decision. They have to start all over with a brand new trial. That's a hung jury. They've got to get a new jury, new trial. This trial resulted in a guilty verdict on 2 counts of second-degree murder because once again, jurors could not agree that the killings were premeditated, but they did agree to return with second-degree charges rather than first-degree charges. That she did it. We can't be sure it's first-degree. We're going to call it second-degree and have this be over.
What?
So,
oh, never mind. I was just
go ahead.
A stupid question. I forgot that 2 people got murdered and not just him. So I was asking what the 2 counts were.
For both. One for each.
Got it.
So Betty Brodrick ultimately received 32 years to life at her sentencing. She did go before the parole board in 2011, which was 20 years into her sentence. That was the first time she was eligible. At this hearing, according to reports, Betty continued to deflect blame for her actions and just not take any responsibility. She still blames Dan.
That's not surprising at all. She sounds like a narcissist.
Yes, correct. She was ultimately denied in 2011 and then again in 2017. And her next chance at eligibility is in 2032. And she'll be 84 years old when she's next eligible for parole.
Wow.
Her children did provide testimony at these parole hearings, and they're a bit split on their feelings toward their mother. So the eldest daughter, Lee Brodrick, said, who at the time she said this was 38, so that would have been in like either 2011 or 2017, said that she wanted her mother to come live with her, even though she still misses her father. She said, quote, she should be able to live her later life outside of prison walls. Rhett Brodrick, the next in line, said in a 2006 interview that, quote, keeping her in prison isn't really helping her. She's not a danger to society. The only two people she was a danger to are dead. Dan Brodrick, the next child, said his mother was, quote, hung up on justifying what she did. In my heart, I know my mother is a good person, he said, but along the way, she got lost. Releasing a lost person into society could be a dangerous mistake. So he's like, don't do it.
It's a very mature way to communicate that.
And Kim Brodrick, the youngest, also testified against her mom being paroled, saying her mother should stay in prison. So thus far, she is still in prison. She, again, won't be able to go before the parole board until 2032. And we'll see. She'll be quite old at that point.
Yeah.
I would imagine if she's still living that they might grant it to her at that point, based on like her age alone, really.
Yeah.
So we'll see, but
dang,
that's my case, recommended by Dinah Marie.
I'd absolutely heard of this because didn't they do a Dirty John season about her?
Possibly.
I think they did.
I might have missed that, but yeah. I mean, it's not an unknown case for sure.
No, I'd heard about it, but I didn't. The toxicity on both sides and just her absolute break is
it's
kind
scary
of fascinating.
Shit. Yeah, it's pretty wild. And yeah, at the end of the day, I'm devastated for their children.
Yeah.
Who have, again, were the biggest victims in all of this. And neither party really seemed to go out of their way to protect their fucking kids.
No, that's tragic.
And I hope that they're okay and that where they are now, they're happy and they're healthy and loved as adults. That's the best that I can hope for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe a good dose of therapy would be beneficial. Well, thanks, Dana Marie Ruckert. Dana Marie. I don't know why I thought deadly divorces might be a little lighthearted. It was really nothing to indicate that except for just my optimism. So
I love your optimism. It's so pure.
My eagerness to be delighted.
Yep. She loves to be delighted.
I do.
I know you do. Don't yell at me.
Okay. On that note, thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.